Hey guys, project-zodiac here. I'm back with another video, and this is my review for Mufasa the Lion King. I just got home from the theaters, and I watched Mufasa the Lion King and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 back to back. I'm reviewing this after my review for Sonic 3, so it's currently 2:30 a.m. right now. I'm tired. If you haven't seen my review on that, I do definitely recommend it. It's definitely a lot longer than this one. Um, but I still wanted to review this one too. Um, but yeah, so short version is I do really like both movies. Sonic 3 though was the better movie, but this one is also very good. So I do recommend you watch my review on Sonic 3 as well. Um, but with all that said, let's just get into this video. Um, I'm trying to see how, like, if I should have a spoiler section at the end of the video. I might, if I can think of something to say. There isn't really a lot of things that can be spoiled with this movie, but I'm not gonna just be saying the big plot, like the very specific things in the movie. It's a very simple, straightforward story. It's very predictable in its sense, but it's still a very good movie. So yeah, it's gonna be mostly spoiler free. So if there's gonna be a spoiler section, I'll leave it towards the end, and I'll make it very clear when it's the spoiler section. But yeah, with that said, I think that this movie itself is very good. You know, at first when I first saw that they announced a Mufasa movie, I was like excited to see what they were gonna do, but I kept thinking like, what's the point of that? Who actually wants a movie about Mufasa? It kind of felt just like a cash grab. I think they could have just done a sequel to The Lion King. And actually, I can say this about that. This is I can say this because it's in the trailers. This is kind of a sequel. It's a sequel prequel because it does take place after The Lion King, except that it's Rafiki telling Kiara about Mufasa, and you get to kind of see that. But the movie keeps like jumping back and forth between the present day with Rafiki, Timon, Pumbaa, and Kiara, and then in the past with Mufasa and Scar, who is called Taka, I think was his name, before he got the name for Scar. So if you're gonna be watching the series chronologically, even though this does take place before The Lion King, considering there's a huge amount of portions, like every maybe 20 minutes or so, they're jumping, like 20-25 minutes, they're jumping back and forth between the present and the past. So because there's a lot of things from the present, I would definitely recommend just watching this as a sequel. But then you can also kind of still see it as a prequel and basically kind of get a glimpse as to what's going to be happening in the future. But you know, it spoils the ending of The Lion King, basically. So yeah, you can see it either or. It makes more sense to watch it as an actual sequel though. Because yeah, it's not just one scene, it's many scenes that's set in the present. But yeah, in terms of like my thought with it, I thought it was going to be just almost like a cash grab, but I thought it would still gonna be a fun, enjoyable movie. It turns out though that it does not feel like a cash grab. It actually feels like a very heartwarming story, and it's a story that was done really well. It's a, you know, I can say this because the trailers say it. It's the story about how Mufasa, who had no blood, royal blood in him, became a king. And because of that, it is very predictable because they really shove it in your face that it's the story of Mufasa and Scar. And I keep calling him Scar because that's just, since the 90s he's been called. So even though it's revealed here that his actual real name is Taka, but I'm just going to be calling him Scar just because. Um, so it was really interesting to see that, it was the story of these two brothers and how one was adopted into the family, and how they became royalty. I thought that that was really interesting, but also very predictable in the direction that they were gonna take that. And but that's the interesting thing, and this is something that I can say for a spoilers section. But without the spoilers, they do take the predictability of it, still use that, but they do add a little bit of a twist to it, which I really liked. So even though you kind of understand how they're gonna get to that point of Mufasa being king, um, they do add something very interesting to it, which makes it stand out. And so yeah, it's predictable, but with a little bit of a twist in it that makes it stand out, and it worked really well, while also teaching kind of a beautiful lesson as well. So yeah, that I can say for quick spoilers later on. In regards to the actual story in general, though, again, it's just really good. Um, However, I feel like the pacing of the movie, it feels like this movie was supposed to be 2.5 hours long. And I kind of talked about this with Sonic 3, because both of these movies are 2 hours long. I literally watched them back to back. One ended, I had a 15-minute break between it, and I then went into the other one. Um, Sonic 3 was super fast paced, but that's because it was only focusing on the main plot, and it felt like it was giving you huge spoonfuls of content. It was, and in a good way. It's just, it was a lot. So it was fast paced in that sense, not fast paced because they're trying to get a lot of things in. But trying to make it rushed. It's not that they were trying to make it rushed. That's what I mean. I explain it better in my review for that. It's just, it feels rushed because there's a lot of things that comes, but it's not told in a rushed way. Here, though, that's where my complaint is. It feels like there's so much in this story that it is told in a rushed way, where they're trying to just tell it in a like, all right, we gotta just get this out, hurry up, go from this, go to that. It's not that it's a lot of things that makes it feel rushed, because it's complete things. Here it's things that are being sent in a rush that are not finalized, but you kind of have to pick up the pieces and go with it because they give you just enough to understand. So that's what I mean by it being rushed in that sense. And this is true especially for the first half of the movie. After they meet Rafiki, um, I was gonna say other characters as well. I don't know if that would be considered spoilers. I only seen like one or two trailers, but they do meet Rafiki, and from when they meet Rafiki till the rest and the ending of the movie, there's still quick moments like that where it's not doesn't feel like it's really finalized, or like the information is finalized. It's just like the main idea of the information, and then just let's go to the next main idea, let's go to the next one. So there's less of that. So this is more of an issue to the first half of the movie, but yeah, the pacing does get better in the second half. But every now and then it still has that issue. But it goes back to what I was saying with the issues of the pacing in general. It seems like this was supposed to be a 2.5 hour movie that they felt was too long, so they had to like cut out pieces very quickly. Like, it doesn't even make sense sometimes where you're in the middle of an actual important thing happening in the past, and then it just randomly is in the present, and it's just them talking about the story, and then it just randomly is back with them in the past, and it's like some other stuff happened and we didn't hear any of it. So I just really feel like the pacing of it was just trying to be under 2 hours or at the most 2 hours, but clearly seemed like it was supposed to be more than that. Because like of how quick things are, just one thing to the next, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, and that's how it is, without letting you get a full context of that situation. You get the main idea and it's like, that's enough, let's go into the next main idea, rather than the full main idea plus the weight of it plus the scene of it, all of that. So that's one complaint that I have with it. And another real complaint that I have with it as well is I feel like the CGI for this one wasn't as good as the original live action Lion King movie. There's some shots that really look breathtaking and really, really, really realistic. But then there are some shots where it's in a really realistic scene, but then clearly some things are CGI very clearly. And then it really stands out. It's like, why did you do all of that super realistic and then these things not, it still looks super beautiful, but making it stand out very obviously. So and that was true with the last movie as well, with the first live action Lion King movie, but here I just think that the CGI was not as good as in that first movie. But it's been a few years since I've seen that live action one. I gotta rewatch it just to compare. But that's a nitpicking thing. Really, I only bring that up just because this is live action Lion King, and the main focus of this is the whole CGI element for it. But yeah, so that's why I'm being a little bit more nitpicky with that here. But yeah, another real complaint that I have is that the songs are actually not too bad. I think there was like 2 or 3 songs that I really liked a lot, and I thought that the rest were just pretty decent, just okay. Disney's songs in their movies for many years now have been just bland and not memorable, other than like maybe a song or here or there. I know everyone's gonna talk about the music for Frozen, but I think that the song there was really overrated. I think there was maybe only like 2 catchy songs in it that really has the essence of Disney's classic songs from like the 90s and 2000s movies. So really, I think even better than Frozen's music, I think that the music starting with Encanto really started to have that charm back with Disney music. So the music for Encanto, the music for Wish, there was another Disney movie I saw recently that came out not long ago. But yeah, the movies starting with Encanto, coming out after Encanto, and these have been having much better music and has more or less the essence of the songs from the past. So, and that is true to the music here as well. There's many songs here where it's like, yeah, this really works really well, and it's really, really nice. I think there's really just 1 or 2 super catchy songs in this movie, but again, the rest was pretty decent overall. But that leads into my actual complaint that I'm trying to get at. It's these I don't know if it's because it's lions being emotive or anything like that, but there's a couple of times where they're just singing a song and the song is so hyped up and it's so cool, but then the lion is just walking, pacing back and forth as he sings it, and it does not match the energy of the song. He's literally just walking back and forth, and then he like lays down and keeps singing, and it's like, this song is so hyper, why is this dude just singing as he's being lazy? This does not make sense. And there's a couple of scenes like that as well. I just remembered another complaint that I have. It's in regards to how they handle Scar, um, because it's very rushed in how he goes from Taka to how he goes in terms of his behavior, how his behavior goes from Taka to Scar, because the dude goes from Taka to Scar in literally 0.1 seconds. And it's just like, okay, how are you suddenly the Scar that we know from the original Lion King out of nowhere? He has an actual reason and it's explained. Again, that's more for spoilers, but it's literally the next scene. And it's just like, it made no sense. How does he go from being Taka, who's very sweet and caring, to literally speaking and acting, and even his like posture is just like Scar. It changes literally in the next second. Um, so yeah, that's one thing that I really didn't like. And again, so yeah, that the pacing in some parts of it, and how some of those song performances were done. Um, and by performance I mean visually, and then just yeah, just mostly that. Um, Other than that, though, the story is beautifully told. I honestly, like I said, I kept thinking, what's going to be the point of this movie? Um, it actually was a story worth telling, I think, and it was told really nicely too. And I even like that they add elements of setting up things for the Lion Guard, which, for those of you that don't know, is a canon movie animated series, both of that, to The Lion King, where we follow Simba's son. So he has a younger son. Is it a younger son or older son? Can't remember. I've only seen it once, the movie itself. It was okay. It wasn't bad. But yeah, in this movie, they take elements of that, of Simba having eventually, we hearing and seeing later on another kid. So they take little elements of that. I guess that was a spoiler. I'm sorry. It's so late right now. But yeah, overall, I think that they did a really good job in showing us that world a little bit more and building up on it too. So, which was pretty good. Yeah, I think that this was a story worth telling, and I do think it's definitely really good to go see this movie. But yeah, guys, that's my thoughts on the spoiler-free section. If you want to see the spoiler section, there's really only like 2 or 3 things I gotta talk about. Um, but yeah, if you don't, then thank you for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the movie when you do watch it, and if you prefer this movie over Sonic 3, or if you preferred Sonic 3 over this movie. In regards to the spoilers, though, last warning for spoilers. 3, 2, 1. Let's go to the spoilers. Okay, so in terms of the spoilers, the thing with Scar that I didn't like was the fact that he sees Mufasa, and I cannot remember her name right now. I'm sorry, but the lioness that joins them, that ends up becoming Mufasa's wife and Simba's mom. So we find out that Scar liked her as well, and Mufasa just kept trying to get them to be together, but ignoring his own feelings because he wanted his brother to be happy and to be a king. So it was nice to see, though, that he said no, but I really love her. I know she loves me, and we'll figure this out. So that's kind of what makes Scar become Scar, and it's fine. I'm not mad about that. It's more about the fact that he sees that, and then he goes on a musical moment, and literally as soon as that musical moment is done, he's already Scar. So he goes from Taka to Scar in like 2 minutes, basically. And Actually, not even 2 minutes. He goes from a like basically once the musical is done, he goes from Taka to Scar, so it's not even a minute long. Um, so yeah, his posture changes, his little like literal voice changes. Um, like it becomes more like Scar from the movies, from The Lion King, and even the way that he thinks and talks and his speech pattern, it literally becomes straight out old Scar. And it's just like, how? Where was the development for that? And that's what I mean about, another example of like things being feel like they were just taken out. Um, because and then I feel like they should have changed the scenes around a little bit, because there's just a couple of scenes after that where Scar is acting like himself as Taka, but then slowly starts to have hatred towards Mufasa, and it's like, why didn't you guys have that first? That doesn't make sense. So like there was no development. He literally switches from Taka to Scar in 1 minute. Um, yes, you see him moping for 2 minutes as he sings his song, but that's just him being upset. It's not the actual development. So really, I think that was, along with the pacing, my biggest complaint in this entire movie. It's how they handled Scar at the end, because other than that, their relationship was really good. Um, and and even in the end, the relationship was really good too. I just think that the switch from Taka to Scar was so rushed. There was no switch; it just happened. Um, but then, in terms of like the actual message and the story that this was trying to tell, it's like, yeah, Mufasa was became an orphan, and he was adopted, but outcast from his adopted family, and he kept doing everything that he could to make sure that Scar would be the king. He did not want to be the king, and I think that the beautiful part in the message really is, you know, um, sometimes we are more important than we think. For example, for Taka, he really wanted to be king, and I felt bad for him, because he kind of just didn't know how to fight, but that wasn't his fault. And I forgot to mention this earlier. Like, his dad is a jerk, and just super lazy, and but Taka fights against his dad's morals all the time. Um, but he's shy, and he just doesn't know how to handle things, and that's why he needs some help and support. And that it's good that Mufasa is there for that. But Taka didn't want to be king to begin with, and so when Simba comes, he kind of feels a bit upset. It's like, well, maybe he's better than me. And so it's a little bit of a jealousy there, but he doesn't really have jealousy with that. It's more of just like, he can do things better than I can, kind of like feeling inferior. Um, but that's what I'm trying to say is, so he thinks that in his life he has to be a king, because for him that is the most important thing, because that's what his dad kept slamming in his head his whole life. But he did not realize, because and he overhears it. Mufasa's wife in the movie, before they get married, obviously, tells Mufasa, like, you are supposed to be a king, not Scar. Like, Scar's destiny was to keep you alive and save you. And that's the thing, like, that sounds like she's insulting Scar, but then you realize that she kind of isn't. She's just explaining how sometimes we are very important for a very specific thing in people's lives. For Scar, it was being Mufasa's brother and Mufasa being his brother. But on top of that, it was them taking care of each other and Scar always saving Mufasa and Mufasa always saving Scar. But Mufasa's part, his own life was being a leader because of how he sees the world. And just because Scar can't see the world in a way to help lead it doesn't mean that he can't be a leader too, because he knows when to think about something and actually do it. It just is sad that he kind of thinks about it in a more selfish way, which we kind of see get developed here, but then we really see that in The Lion King. So yeah, it's not that Scar and his life isn't important. It is. It's very important, especially even in being a leader. It's just that he went about doing it the wrong way because his dad and his family didn't teach it to him. Whereas with Mufasa, he had his parents teaching him these things since he was little, and then when he became an orphan, he still kept holding on to what he had learned and wanted to really focus on that and on using those skills. Whereas Scar's dad just kept pushing him around to be lazy and not know how to do things until, at the middle towards the end of this movie, where they do realize, or where Scar realizes how he can be a leader in his own way. So, and then of course we have Mufasa, where his role is, he's better at being a leader than he thought he was. Sorry, and I thought, that's a very beautiful message, that sometimes we think we're not good at something, but we are. Taka with being a leader, and Mufasa with being a nobody. Taka ends up being a leader in his own way, and Mufasa ends up embracing who he is and the heart that he has to be able to help save everyone, and that is what makes everyone see him as their king. So yeah, Mufasa in that sense, I probably said it a little bit wrong, but Mufasa is not that he's a nobody. It's not that. What I meant to say is he's more important at being someone who listens to his heart to take care of things, whereas Taka is more important in the sense of he is better at being a leader than he thinks. And both of that leads them to be leaders in their own ways. And I think that that's really interesting. And so yeah, it's a nice message to just remind you, like, you're better at the things that you think you're bad in than you actually think that you're bad at. In other words, the things you're not that good at, you are probably better at them than you actually think. And maybe those things are very important for who you are in general, and the things that you can do. So I thought it was a nice message, and the twist that I kept saying is like, yeah, it was predictable that Mufasa would be adopted and he would take the throne somehow. But the twist itself isn't that he takes the throne, it's that everybody picks him to be the king because he's the one who helped fight the lions. And he kept refusing the title of being king, and then he's like, okay, I guess since hundreds of animals are making me king, there's not much I can do here. But he, tells them, like, everyone keep your heads up, we're all equal. So I thought that was really nice, because that was a really nice twist. Because I thought that he was just gonna have to face Scar or Scar's dad and claim the title or something like that. I thought, and that was the very predictable route. And again, they kind of go that way with him being adopted and taking the throne from Scar. But he also kind of doesn't, because the twist is, for him, Scar is the king until they get to the Pride Lands. Whereas, where in the Pride Lands, he makes his own kingdom. So because in the Pride Lands, they're not in, where they were before, there's no king there. And since Scar betrayed him and all of the other animals are listening to him, he makes his own kingdom. Unintentionally, he makes the kingdom. And I thought that that was a really nice twist where it's like, because he was following his heart to want to do something good, other people noticed that too and wanted to follow him to help with that and make him the king, even though that's not what he was trying to do at all. And he even kept saying, "I'm not the king," and they kept saying, "You're our king." Um, and it was nice. It was a nice twist that they did that, which kind of just shows, like, um, when people trust you, you really can achieve more things than you thought. So I thought that that was a really nice message as well. Um, and yeah, I thought it was really, really good. And yeah, that's. I keep forgetting what the other spoiler thing I had to say was right now. Again, it's really late. But I thought that the movie had really nice messages. The chemistry between Scar and Mufasa was really good. I loved seeing the callbacks to the original movie, like how the Pride Rock was made. I thought that was amazing, and I actually got excited for it. The whole final battle was really, really well done. Rafiki is so cool in this movie. Um, and it was just nice seeing Mufasa and Scar build, the Pride Lands kingdom as they're going on their journey. There are definitely a couple of things that do seem very fan servicey, like almost forced. Like, why do we need to know how Rafiki gets his staff? I mean, it's a staff. He probably has had many of them. Why make that such a big deal? Um, so there are a couple of things like that where it did feel a little bit forced, but then there was a couple of things that was like, oh, that's really cool. Like such as when the Pride rocks come and we see it like fall down and then collapse, so it becomes like that whole yeah, like that angled rock. I thought that that was a really nice callback to how it was made, or not callback, but a revelation of how it was made, and a nice reference to their home. So yeah, a couple of things like that. Really, it just comes down to Scar, a little bit of the CG, but not really. That's just more nitpicking. Just Scar and the pacing as my issues. But everything else is so well done, and I do think that this was a very good movie in general. I would definitely want to watch this movie again pretty soon. Don't know if I'll watch it in theaters again. But one last complaint. I saw this movie in 3D. The 3D was just kind of good. It was just like good Marvel CG. Sorry, 3D. And the reason why I'm saying Marvel is because their 3Ds kind of have like a very specific formula to it where like the environments are really good, but then like the people are not the best in 3D. Sorry. So that's my complaint here as well. The 3D for a lot of the environments in The Lion King, in Mufasa was really well done and did feel like it had a lot of depth. But the characters just felt a bit flat overall, and it didn't feel like it took advantage of the 3D. It felt very cardboardy in some parts. So yeah, it just kind of felt like a generic good Marvel movie 3D, or Disney movie 3D. So it's not like the Beauty and the Beast live action movie 3D, because the 3D for that was so good. It's not like it's Avatar 3D or even Avengers Endgame or Infinity War 3D. It's just good Marvel 3D, basically. I also do like that they do have a memory moment at the very start of the movie for the original voice actor of Mufasa, who also originally voiced Darth Vader, as he died not long ago. And I love the fact that the voices that they picked really do seem like a much younger version of those voice actors from the original movies. So yeah, you can kind of see them being older, reaching that vocal tone. I thought, I know that not everyone's voices really changes that much, but I know that some people's voices change big time. So I think that they picked a good in between for that. I thought that it's believable that their voices just do change for these characters, and that's the direction that the voice ends up leading to. So very good representation with the voices. Yeah, overall, I just think that the movie was really good and did pay a lot of respect to these characters and the story. And yeah, I think it was worth making this movie for sure after actually seeing how the movie came out. So, with all that said, guys, let me know what you think on this movie. What you think of Sonic 3 if you watched it as well, and which of the two you preferred. With all that said, guys, rate, comment, subscribe. I'll talk to you later. And now I'm gonna go to sleep because it's 3 a.m. So, good night, everyone. Have a good day. Oh, and happy holidays for everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and any other celebrations that you guys have during this holiday season. Forgot to say that in my Sonic 3 review, so I'm saying it now. But alright guys, have a good night.